Is it gonna mess the budget up, or is it gonna, you know, mess the overtime up or something? I don't know. You know what I mean? But just being realistic, man, we have to come to some type of common ground as a city, as a whole, if we want Chattanooga to blossom and be the city that it can be. You know what I mean? We can't just keep outcasting people like they're nothing. We can. This city can be something that in America that hasn't been done before. You know what I mean? So with that being said, we're finna get into the 32 documentary, and I hope y'all enjoy it. And I'm finna bring up the executive producer of this, my dog, Jamal Hicks, aka Maal The Pimp.
Right. All right.
I got wine in my hand, I'm still keeping it natural, you hear me? To pick back off what he said, we both came together and did this, but my inspiration, I'm finna sit down too. But my inspiration behind it was like, excuse my language, I'm just cutting dry. My inspiration behind this was like, when I first saw Bill Long get picked up, and I saw he got accused of having 33 or 33 kilograms of cocaine. I'm like, man, this cartel type stuff right here. You know what I'm saying? And then the 22 or 23 pounds of marijuana, and then handing firearms to known fellas. If there would have been anybody from our community, there would have been 7 life sentences with no parole back to back. And anybody knows that. So I look at that happen, and I look at the slap on the wrist he got, because if I got caught with that, and I walk away with 10 years, I'd take a smile. That's a blessing. You know what I'm saying? And then you come a few years behind that, and I see these 32 gentlemen get indicted for allegedly talking on the phone, nothing red-handed that they got caught with. And I'm thinking, how did they get more time than him? Then you want to break it down, like, I'm just going to use like loaves of bread. If this guy's bringing in loaves of bread by the truckload, and I get caught with a sandwich, I can only make a sandwich based off the bread he's bringing in. So how do I get more time than him? You know what I'm saying? And so it had to be racially motivated. And I'm sitting back looking at all this on the news, I'm thinking to myself, excuse my language, I said, man, am I the only one seeing this shit? Am I the only one seeing this shit that's going down like this? Nobody's gonna speak on this? So that was my motivation to put this out. And then a lot of the guys who got indicted, I knew these guys. I knew them personally. A lot of 3 of them I grew up with. A lot of them I knew just from the city. Some of them I know their moms, I know their wives, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, he's not the worst of the worst. We all have had some little run-ins with the law here and there, you know what I'm saying? He's not the worst of the worst. So how can you paint them like this, but carefully watch the words you use to describe the sheriff? Just say if they were doing drugs, just say, let's just play the devil's advocate. Okay, these guys were doing what you accused them of doing. These small amounts that you accuse them of, they can only sell that because of the large stuff that he's bringing in, so where are they getting it from? You follow what I'm saying? Did that make sense to anybody in here? Yeah. You follow what I'm saying? So, if you wouldn't bring all this large stuff into the city, they wouldn't have access to the small stuff. And then you're the sheriff, your job is to protect the sheriff, so you should be held to the highest standard anyway. You know what I'm saying? There's no way you should walk away with less time than them. So that's what made me start digging into the case. When I started getting all the details, I'm saying to myself, like, this needs to be documented and put out there in a way that everybody can understand. It's not gonna get these guys out of jail, it's not gonna change nothing, but it needs to be exposed. Because a lot of this stuff going on right here is going on in other cities, but nobody talks about it. And then another thing, when they got a lot of these guys, the whole thing was, like for instance, if it was my man right here, okay, you got me, but if you tell on him, we'll cut your time. Him, if you tell on him, we'll cut your time. Just tell. And when they got Bill along, they didn't ask him to tell nothing. You know why? Because somebody like that started telling, he's gonna start putting other people in higher power in trouble. So they don't wanna know where he's getting it from. You know what I'm saying? Is anybody hearing what I'm saying? If Bill Long starts saying, this is how I got the drug, this is how I got it in, it's gonna be people in higher power that wanna go down. They don't wanna know that. But if I get caught with it, you want me to tell on him. So when I look at all this as a whole, this needs to be documented and put out there, you know, and anybody, I grew up in the hood. I'm from College Hill, of course, the west side. But I've never been a racist. This is not my thing to want to raise like that. But I'm not dumb enough to act like it don't exist. This is modern day racism right here. Now people not going around saying the N-word. That's stupid, that's too obvious right there. They're doing racial actions. That's how you know it still exists. And this is a prime example of that right here. So that was my motivation behind it. I want to just get the word out there, let everybody know that, you know, what you see on the news is not everything that's true. We put the real story out there. We dug deep. This took 3 years to put out there. We put the real story out there. This is the truth, and I hope y'all enjoy this.
All right.
Anybody, once you watch this and see, y'all gonna see a few little snippets here, but we got the documentary back there. We're gonna be selling copies for $10. So if anybody want to purchase a copy, which I think you should, because this is something that needs to be in the collector's item at the household right here. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the things that you laying around, somebody walking like, what's that right there? You be like, oh yeah, watch this. You know what I'm saying? It's one of them type things right there. So y'all check this out, and again, we appreciate y'all for coming out. So just sit back, open your mind, and look at what's going on. Thank y'all very much.
Real quick, just format for the rest of the night. We're gonna watch about 10 minutes of video, the trailer, a news clip, and the music video that Maal created. And then we're gonna have 2 panels. I think the first one we're gonna do is the community panel that features a lot of different people within the community. And then I'll have Maal and Mel come up for a production discussion about the production, hear more about the motivation behind it. All right, so here we go.
Of Chattanooga's most dangerous.
Sheriff Long was apprehended by the FBI this morning.
32 of Chattanooga's most dangerous criminals have been arrested.
This investigation started in 2009.
32 people were indicted.
This has been targeted in making sure that we send a message that the violence has to stop.
A 10-month investigation resulted in charges extortion, money laundering, and drug trafficking. Let Long's department demoralized.
They had you out here to abuse power and take that power and use that to abuse authority. I can't justify that.
You got the sheriff did a drug and I almost got the same time he got. I didn't got caught nothing. I got 10.5 years for being a friend.
This is really an important day in our fight against violence.
A multi-year investigation involves major gun and crack cocaine charges.
That someone who had no prior criminal history is the worst of the worst. Not even a traffic ticket.
You can tell, I guess, investigators have been doing lead work for a while.
To announce the arrest of Hampton County Sheriff Billy Long on federal charges.
Police say these are Chattanooga's worst criminals.
These are the worst of the worst. Who said this?
These are guys who have traffic violations.
Any law enforcement officer, be it federal, state, or local, puts his desire for money above his sworn duty to protect and serve. We all saw.
After 4 years of secret work, the feds finally moved in.
Hold one individual to one standard and now hold another to another standard based on the color of their skin, based on how much money they have to pay a good lawyer, or based on the resources that they have or who their friends are in this community. There's never going to be a justification for it. Never.
It is one of the bigger cases that I've seen.
Some individuals are looking at 10 to 20 years in prison or even a life sentence if convicted.
They call us the worst of the worst. But come on, man. Now the murder rate in the city is the all-time peak. That old people just have sentences that cannot be justified by their length compared to what they did.
And I would know now that the system is not working for us.
We have a lot of people who were locked up and were minor actors for way too long.
Long pleaded guilty and received 14 years in prison. Ex-Hamilton County Sheriff Billy Long will spend less time in prison. Judge Sandy Matisse has reduced Long's sentence to the minimum punishment allowed. Long pleaded guilty in 2008 to extorting local businesses, money laundering, and providing a firearm to a felon.
Extortion, bribery, federal firearms violation.
Right now, shit. Police come through, rats, nigga, all day, so.
In 2013, police called these men from a drug roundup the worst of the worst. That set people off. While some of those arrested were convicted felons with history of violent crimes, others only had minor charges like misdemeanor drugs or suspended licenses. Because of that, Jamal Hicks started working on a documentary.
Going for a 10 or 12 year stream without getting into trouble, some married, having kids and things like that. And then happened to get caught again in 2013 for something they may or may have not did. And use the charges they caught 10 years ago to enhance their time unless they cooperate. That's not fair.
The film is called 32, referencing the number of men arrested. In it, Hicks interviews inmates still in jail from that roundup and their families.
My name is Tiffany Tony, and I'm speaking on behalf of Gerald Tony. Gerald Tony is my husband.
Hicks and his videographer compare the story to that of former Hamilton County Sheriff Billy Long. He pled guilty to extortion, money laundering, drug and gun charges while he was sheriff. He served 8 years and was released in 2016, 6 years early.
It's only 8 years in prison? 8 years?
Hicks says his message is to encourage people to think differently about some of those arrested in that roundup.
When I see people criticize people who live that, you know, they haven't walked in their shoes before. Every dude I know who's from the street, they'll do anything to live another life. They don't like that, they don't choose that, but it's the cause that they were there, so they play it.
And Hicks says he's finalizing some final plans for a viewing party for that documentary. Once we know those plans, we'll put it on our website on newsshow9.com. Right now, we're live in Chattanooga. I'm James Torres, News Channel 9.
Much for that. Now, you can buy... WDSW show has the latest in our top local stories.
32 of Chattanooga's most dangerous crimes.
And now they're off the streets along with guns and at least $125,000 worth of cocaine.
The Chattanooga area is going to see a significant increase in quality of life.
This investigation started in 2009 and has since involved local, state, and federal agencies.
They call them 32 the worst of the worst. But what's the worst is how they families were hurt. The sheriff came to that work. There's still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting from them. That means it's in them. They call them 32 the worst of the worst. But what's the worst is how their families were hurt. The sheriff came to that work. There's still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting from them. That means it's in them. A 4-year investigation from the ground. Don't they claim the worst of the worst is who they round. Them gangbangers selling dope and they be crime committed. 32 niggas get indicted in the inner city. Every race be breaking laws and shit you can't ignore. But in my city, only blacks will be arrested for it. Yeah, in my city, only blacks will be arrested for it. Why this Chattanooga, y'all, the KKK just left the march. The days only hit the hood, I don't respect that. Why the food and water side of days is where the milk at. Well, yeah, food and water side of days is where the milk at. Ain't none of them I call the fed case of milk at all. Brian Slayton doing time like a real nigga. My blood cousin was a victim of the fed system. It hurt our family to see the way the feds did it. All we did was keep it real, that's why the feds did it. They call them 32 the worst of the worst. But what's the worst is how their families were hurt. The sheriff came to that work. There's still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting from them. That is written in them. They call them 32 the worst of the worst. But what's the worst is how their families were hurt. The sheriff came to that work. There's still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting from them. That is written in them.
Long pleaded guilty and received 14 years in prison. A 10-month investigation resulted in charges of extortion, money laundering, and drug trafficking left Long's department demoralized.
Any law enforcement officer, be it federal, state, or local, puts his desire for money above his sworn duty to protect and serve. We all suffer.
Long song about the bricks, yeah, he did it. Slap on the wrist at his trial when it's time for the sentence. So when the bricks trying to grams and disperse through the city, they wanna offer 10 to life to the niggas that get it. Why? They wanna expose how the fuck it begin. Why? They own the planes and the boats that be floating shit in. They own the boats and the planes, man, they fly that shit in. They put it in our neighborhood and set us up for a den. They wanna say it ain't a setup, but just look at the back. You get 32 indictments, everybody was trapped. A lot of families was hurting from the homeless you stay. There's gonna be people dead and gone by the time they get back. How much corruption in the system causing nothing but pride. Taking bottles from their kids so the streets gonna die. They profile them on the news as the worst of the worst. Why the fuck they get the dope building all that first and even serve? Call them 32 the worst of the worst. But what's the worst is how their families were hurt. The sheriff came to that work. It's still
still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting it from them. That nigga's better than them. They call them 32, the worst of the worst. So what's the worst is how the families were hurt. The sheriff gave you that book. It's still drugs in the city, that's real. But they in jail, so you ain't getting it from them. That nigga's better than them. Sheriff from the west side, my homie OG. And tell me, girl, yeah, look up and can't forget LT. I been Big Mama from the south side, he was loyal to me. And free the first right, we need this music back on the street. And to the wars, away the trial, don't keep praying for y'all. Just look to the sky, keep it faith and wait for blessings to fall. When the system is corrupted and no justice exists, only God can see you through in situations like this. They get my cousin in the system, he been gone for some years. Solid soldier to the bone, I hope you get that appeal. Here's a third like a man never did shed a tear. It's called leaks in jail business till my niggas get here. They need your life just like it's 10 years, they hang this shit out. Been in the game over 10 years, less time to get out. Get railroaded off in court and leave your family hurt. Show them one judge and 12 jurors for your worst to the worst. You hear me?
So first, what we're going to do is actually host a community panel with different community members to talk about some of the major themes of the documentary. Mo, do you have those Q&A pieces of paper where they sit back there? You handed them out. All right, great. So if you come up with if you have a question that comes up during this, we're not going to have an open mic Q&A. Write your question down, take it back. Mo, where are you going to be, man? Okay, at the table? All right, take it back to that table. Since we're going to be limited on time, we'll pick out 4 to 5 questions from the audience for this panel. All right, so I'm going to call these people up, and please come up. I'm going to call your name. District Attorney Neil Pinkston. Council Woman Coonrad. CPD Officer Lee Mayweather. Mr. Joe Jenkins. And Public Defender Jackson Whetsel. All right, so first of all, thank you all for taking time to be here and be part of this. And I only have about 3 mics. We're going to have to pass the mics as we kind of go through this. Neil, my first question is for you. You know, whenever I was talking to Maal about this documentary and the conversations we've had about it, Maal described you as a friend. And so I'm just, as a way to start off on a light foot, I'm really interested to hear that story on how you and Maal became friends.
I met Mr. Hicks through Lydia Cluel, who works in my office, who was part of the documentary. And he's come to the office before, and we've had phone conversations about different issues in Chattanooga and about what he was trying to accomplish in this documentary, and maybe some insight or input I had from the job that I do. So that's kind of, and we both went to Middle Tennessee State University, so that's a connection that we have.
So I'm not sure how many people realize this, but the case of the 32 is a federal case. And so, Neil, you're a district attorney. This was not your office, correct, that took part in this?
No, it was a federal investigation and prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office. We're in state court only, so it was a total federal case. And when you look at sentencing law for the federal system versus sentencing law of the state system, they're not even close to being comparable. And so I find it troubling if you try to compare the two, because they're both totally worlds apart.
So on the panel tonight, we do have Mr. Jenkins, and Joe Jenkins is one of the 32 that was part of this. So Joe, you know more about this whole situation than anybody else up here. We've lived through this, and I would just like to hear more about it from your experience about this entire case.
All right, I first want to open up by saying that whole worst of the worst thing, I'm here to give it back to him. So that don't belong to me. All right? I don't have no money. Second of all, I done my time. I'm through with it. But it's my passion for the people why I'm here. It's my passion that people will understand what's going on. It's my passion that people would dig into it and understand what we're facing and how to go about correcting the issue, because there is an issue and there is a problem to correct. So if it wasn't, and I never do anything without giving honor and say if it wasn't for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would have never made it through, and I would have definitely, more than likely, got that mandatory life sentence that I was facing. All right, because that's what I was facing, but the grace of God. So I thank everybody for being here. I love the diversity that's here. And I brought a few. Is y'all right if I read my key points? Because when Maal asked me about doing this, I told him I had, other than I greatly appreciate what he done. He kept the torch going when a lot of people dropped it. When nobody else wanted to have anything to do with it, he picked it up and he ran with it until I was able to get here and speak on the facts. So when I spoke with him, I told him the only way that I would speak on this panel is if I had an opportunity to speak on the factual documentation that when I sat in Bradley County for 2 years going through the discovery and fighting the case, that I would get to present the same way that they was able to present, that I would get to present what the factual documentation was. And the only way I got this information was from what the government gave me. All right? So, I got 5 factual key points that I want to touch on. All right. So, one of them, out of the 32 worst of the worst, there was only one charge with the crime of violence in support of attesting to the community that the roundup was the city's officials' answer to reducing violence in the city. Next, false and misleading information within the affidavits and attested to the grand jury in order to secure the wiretap for the indictments, as well as the indictments. After the establishment of Robert North being falsely identified through my suppression hearing that was 2 days, with the government being aware of the misidentification of North, they never attempted to correct the action or the record. Instead, they continued with their prosecution and sentenced him to a mandatory 10 years. I have 2 more. The supporting emails between my brother, Whetsel Jenkins, my brother is on this case also, he's one of the 32. The supporting emails between his attorney and the prosecutor, Christopher Poole, where the prosecutor acknowledges that there was never 5 kilograms of cocaine. Rather, in his words, he says it was nearly 5 kilograms. 5 kilograms is what was presented and adhered to the grand jury by the government. Nearly 5 kilograms would lower his statutory minimum from a 10 to life to a 5 to 40 year sentence. And through the same emails between the government and the defendants, which is my brother, attorney, prosecutor for the government, Chris Poole, not once disagreed with the correcting the error. Rather, he stated in his words, I cannot get a B, which is a 5 to 40, approved by my bosses. And so those are the things that I wanted to bring to the floor because they were vital. They were what held a lot of ground within the conviction. If they never had 5 keys, then why was the indictment for the 18 guys on my case, why was it a 5 key or more conspiracy? And that's what I'm here to bring out the lies, as well as how they said that, and I'm gonna hurry this up. As well as how when they presented this in the affidavit, they said that this would be the answer to the violence in the city. But they only charged one person with a crime of violence. What they did was took a young man's phone call that was connected to through a wiretap through another phone call through somebody else's phone, which was my brother, and they said this guy's in gang activity and this guy's in heavy drug activity. So we're going to tell the judge, present it to the judge in a way to say, if you let us listen to these guys wiretap, we'll come up with the answer for the murders, the violence, as well as the drugs in the city. But you only charged one person with a crime of violence, and they was never looking for violence, and they was lying to the community as well. And one thing that I want to drop out there is, with so many people that profits off of violence and gang violence, I just don't believe that what what those higher up really want is to decrease it. Because if you decrease the gang violence and the violence in Chattanooga by 50%, then a lot of pockets are going to go down. A lot of programs are going to go down because they will no longer be supported.
The documentary, there's, you know, as we look through it, the documentary has 4 really sort of big themes, and I want to touch on each one of those. A lot of them do have to do with the legal system. So, you know, Jackson and Neil, you guys might be the most the vocal in this little segment. And then Officer Mayweather and Councilwoman Coonrad, I'm really interested when we get to the community of questions and how this has affected the community. That's where I'm really interested in hearing from both of you. One of the themes of this documentary is the difference in prosecution between white defendants and black defendants. Right, and it's the whole thing with talking about the former sheriff of Hamilton County and comparing that sentencing to the 32. And so, you know, Neil and Jackson, I'd love to hear more from you, from your guys' perspective within the legal system and what you see as have you seen this as a problem within our justice system?
Is the question, are there racial